77 WABC.
Curtis Sliwa, your host here on the Rip and Read. Curtis, yesterday we had a joint press conference from Governor Kathy Hochul, or Hochul, as you would say, and then Attorney General Tish James was there. You had a theory as to why that press conference was held.
Yes. A woman scorned. Now, in this case, two women scorned, and I'll explain. First off, you have to understand that Kathy Hochul, and that is her name because she's full of nonsense, and Tish James hate one another. They're like two scorpions in a brandy glass. If you look at the track record, the Attorney General of the state of New York is supposed to go into court on behalf of the governor. Time and time again, there have been cases that have come up, and Tish James has said, nope, not going to represent the governor of the executive branch. Nope, you're on your own, which is unconscionable. I mean, it clearly indicates that Tish James really felt she should have been governor and not Kathy Hochul. And so in this continued battle of estrogen, they have settled on one issue that they can be joined together as sisters in solidarity. And that is that they will be the first to stand on that liberal, progressive, democratic island and say, we will fight back against Trump. Day one, right? The guy hasn't even, he's like enjoying it, savoring it. The announcement that Arizona and Nevada have come in for Trump. Trump has won not only the electoral college vote of all the battleground states, but the popular vote across the nation. Day one, they've decided we will be on top of the hill. Every liberal progressive Democrat who is upset knows that we're continuing the battle, whereas other Democrats, liberals, and progressives are sort of planning. What are our actions? How are we going to respond? They're the first two to jump onto the hill and say, we will fight back.
Well, actually, somebody else just occurred to me. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy also made some comments yesterday talking about he was going to fight against Trump.
Yeah, but you can know that was made before happy hour at 5 when he would be bending his elbow. And remember, no more ice cubes, can't water down the scotch. It's straight scotch. You don't take them seriously. But for them, they feel scorned because, remember, Attorney General Tish James really thought that if Harris was elected, she had earned her right to become the next Attorney General of the United States. Why? Because of her relentless pounding of Donald Trump, Trump businesses, Trump children, anybody associated with Donald Trump, even to the point of wanting to take every nickel, diamond, penny, every piece of property he has, not just in New York, everywhere. Mm-hmm. She was relentless.
Yeah. But how did that work out in terms of impact in the election? Actually, I'm pretty sure that Trump's numbers went up every time they announced a new case against him.
But the point was she was relentless. You understand?
Yeah, she was relentless.
If Harris got into the White House, she's going to reward everyone who came and helped her in the process. That's one. Number two, remember Kathy Hochul on Sunday morning in a national show just completely eviscerated anyone in New York State who voted for Trump. Anybody. Didn't matter. You could be Republican, Democrat, Independent.
Un-American, I think she said. Something like
Un-American, against abortion, against women. But, I mean, compounding it. So 44% of the people in New York State who voted for Trump are outliers as far as she's concerned. Need to leave this state. Get the hell out of here.
I mean, look, that's pretty common amongst these politicians, right? I mean, wasn't it your favorite Mayor Adams who said, go back to Ohio? And then also you had, of course, Governor Cuomo, ex-Governor Cuomo, saying America was never that great.
Correct. But this was done right before the election. This was Holcomb's audition to get a cabinet position if there was going to be a Harris administration. And remember, she's looked at the polls. Her polls are slightly better than Eric Adams' swagger mayor with no plan. She's at 32%, which would mean she could lose a Democratic primary for governor. And definitely would lose a general election because she barely beat Zeldin the last time. This would just compound it that much more. So both these women understood that they looked at one another and said, yeah, we've been enemies, but, in politics, your friend today is your enemy, tomorrow is your friend tomorrow. It's like organized crime. The only thing different is they don't leave dead bodies. They join together at the hip, and they are now considered the leaders in the anti-Trump president movement. Money is already coming into their coffers because, if there's one thing Kathy Hochul knows what to do with her husband, she's the grifter in chief. Fundraise, fundraise, fundraise. one thing Tish James has never been good at. But she knows if she takes the lead on this, then everybody starts sending their anti-Trump money to her. Mm-hmm. And she promises more litigation, more lawsuits.
And I guess, in essence, Hochul needed the cover of somebody who's a prosecutor who can actually do something about this, as opposed to her just saying, I'm going to defend your rights. Because there's nothing offensive about that. There's nothing. You're not on the offense there. You're just saying, I'll defend your rights.
Correct. And
she wanted to announce something of an attack dog.
Remember,
nature.
This is the media capital. And where are the rest of the Democrats? They're in Somos, in Puerto Rico, getting wine-dined and pocket lined by all the lobbyists there. So who's left here in New York? Hochul, Tish. They steal everybody's thunder. And watch. They will lead and others will follow. You understand? They're all sanctimonious hypocrites. This is all about raising Tish James's profile and Hochul's profile so that now they will be the leaders of the anti-Trump pact before he even gets to make his first official announcement. Mm-hmm. Now, let's bring up another sore subject of mine. All of you newfound Republicans out there who have discovered a love of animals.
Yeah, right.
A love of people who rescue animals.
I mean, I always loved animals, so.
I know you did. To your credit, Hillbilly for Vance, because that's the team you led out there in Bloomfield, outside of New York. He would proudly wear his shirt, Hillbillies for Vance.
I have it right here.
And you have proven yourself to be the biggest hillbilly in all of New Jersey. That's saying a lot because you're not from Sussex out there in the western part of New Jersey. But you are an animal lover, truly. And you don't look at the politics. You're the kind of guy, you could have your Hillbillies for Vance shirt on, and let's say be hypothetically walking your dog and run into a hardcore Harris for president person, right?
Not that uncommon in North Jersey.
And you'd look at one another and say, I hate you, I despise you, I loathe you. But there is a redeeming factor. You're an animal lover.
See?
You're a dog lover.
Exactly.
It's the only thing that brings people together.
This is how we can unite America.
And I've been saying that for how long? How long have I been saying that?
I don't understand. I get a text from you today. You're talking about that you're sort of salty over the fact that somebody like Peanut the squirrel has become a famous, inspiration and image of
let's not
liberty.
Forget Freddie the raccoon there.
Freddie the raccoon as well.
Let's use that case.
Okay,
so now we have this guy who does pornography for a living with his wife, upstate New York, and to his credit, runs an animal sanctuary. He rescues animals in the wilds that if not for that, they'd be dead or they'd be severely injured. Mm-hmm. So he's a double mensch and his wife's a double mensch. Right. But the rest of the time, they're copulating and fornicating. And in fact, he is considered, his best followers are gay men. Gay men or his best followers on this, what do they call it? App that he...
maybe OnlyFans or something like that? Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
So typically Republicans, especially the religious wing, evangelicals would say, what? Pornography? Fornicating? Copulating? No way. But they have embraced him because he is an animal lover and has dedicated his life to rescuing animals. And then the jack-thugged, booted... state officials of Kathy Hochul came in there, kicked in the door, took out the raccoon Freddie that they claim had rabies, and because Peanut stood his ground and bit one of these jackbooted thugs, they took Peanut too, the squirrel, and then they chopped their heads off saying we had to do that to discover if they had rabies. Well, what if they didn't have rabies? What, are you crazy, glue their head back together on their shoulders?
It doesn't work like that. There's no going back.
So notice all the Republicans are built up in their anger. And there's even legislation now, the peanut law. So that will never happen again.
Well, look, libertarian spirit runs through a lot of Republicans. And they don't like the concept of the forces beating down the door to take away these animals. Also, Republicans are not as prudish as you're making them out to be.
Hold on a second. Okay? Let's take you back 4 years ago. I'm running for mayor, remember?
Yeah. And you showed up to the voting site with your cat.
Right. Who, let's not forget that.
Yeah, let's not.
Gizmo, that went internationally.
Yeah.
In fact, I have it posted on my social networking. You can see Gizmo that I took, and they wouldn't let come in to the voting area, although they allowed dogs, comfort animals, but they said, not Gizmo. And then the next year, Peanut. I was so proud to be accompanied by the little kittens that Nancy had rescued from animal care and control who would have been put to death. Oh, And what do Republicans do but make fun of us, of me and Nancy? Oh, they're in your house. Oh, you're a cat man. You're a cat woman. Oh, not Democrats. Democrats said, hey, that's a pretty cool thing. It's about the only thing I like you for, Curtis. My own Democrat. And then I went out to get an animal welfare line. First ever. So I won the Republican line fair and square. Mm-hmm. Then you have to petition your way onto an independent ballot. We called it animal welfare. Democrats didn't challenge it. Democrats said, boy, we wish we would have done that. We like animals. You know who challenged the signatures and knocked us off the line at the Board of Elections? Our own Republicans were saying, oh, we can't support this. Now, all of a sudden, they're the biggest animal lovers in the world. I don't trust any of these politicians, fake, phony, fraudulent fugazis that they are. Now, all of a sudden, am I the crazy cat man? Is Nancy the crazy cat woman? Or did we lead? And now others are following, except we don't do pornography within the private confines of our apartment.
No, not that we're aware of. But at the same time...
Whoa,
I'm sorry,
whoa,
what?
Whoa.
Oh.
Not that we're aware of. You scurrilous SOB. You know, on that note, I'm not going to talk anymore with you. Get the hell out of here, you hillbilly Van.
There's never a dull moment here. New York's talk station. This is Talk Radio 77 WABC. Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa. Rip and read. Check this out. This is the Rip and Read featuring Curtis Sliwa.
Talking about
now to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa. This is the Rip and Read. Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends?
I've seen you around for a long, long time. Yeah. I remember you when you drank my wine.
Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends?
Oh, this is the theme song of Eric Adams, Swagger Man with no plan, who every day, every moment of his time as mayor before he goes to jail for corruption is dedicated now to getting the attention of President-elect of the United States, Donald Trump. And all they do is kiss and kiss and kiss. And oh, my God, they swap and spit back and forth, Team Trump to Team Adams, because it is Eric Adams' only hope to avoid going to jail. They already have a spot for him prepared upstate New York, Otisville, the federal camp for those in politics who are found guilty of corruption. They call it the honorary Sheldon Silver cell, where he died of greed. Thankfully, because I was able to get him sent back there when the marshals had transported him down during COVID and said, well, he'll just stay in his co-op. And they said, no, he won't. As I went right down there and screamed and hollered and said, this guy is a crook, maybe the biggest political crook of all times in New York State, which rivals New Jersey, the Soprano state, in terms of its corrupt officials, Democrat and Republican. It's not the privy of any one party. And he was forced to go back, and he died there and went straight to hell without an asbestos suit. And there have been many of those who have occupied that honorary Sheldon Silver, a.k.a. Meyer Lansky, a.k.a. Hyman Roth cell over the years. But it's being fitted out for Eric Adams, swagger man with no plan, who lives by one code. Sorry I didn't get this up there, but if you can, Lou Rufino, you know what the code of Eric Adams is and has always been in politics.
Show me the money. Show me the money. That's what it's all about.
So when I played that song by War, what an oxymoron, War, that came out of Oaktown, West Coast, actually sang that song that was a hit, Why Can't We Be Friends? because that's what he is saying each and every day, publicly and privately, to anybody who will listen, especially if you have any affiliation to Team Trump. As you know, President Donald Trump has consistently said publicly that he feels that Eric Adams is being railroaded by the Department of Justice, just like he has. He couldn't be any more hopelessly wrong on that. Eric Adams was involved in corruption long before Governor Abbott of Texas sent the first migrant here in August of 2022. Long before that, these investigations were underway a year and a half before. Because the guy loves to get wine dined and pocket lined by anybody. And especially if you're from a foreign country, you're from Uzbekistan, Israel, you're from Azerbaijan, and his most preferred countries where he is able to carry the loot out, Turkey and Red China. So the point being is he is hidden behind this idea that he took on the Biden administration. And, you know, just like Trump, he is a victim of the overaggression, in this case of the U.S. Attorney of the Southern District, Damian Williams. And he has said this publicly over and over and over.
I welcome support from every American, no matter where they are and who they are. I welcome support from every American, that those who know me and know how I am, and those who are just reading up on this. So every American in this great country, I welcome support from.
So on January 6th, Vice President Harris will have to sign in the effect that Donald Trump has been duly and legally elected president of the United States, as he swept every battleground state, with Arizona and Nevada going into the win column earlier today. And he has won the popular vote across the nation. So she will sign that. Ironic, right? January 6th. January 20th, Donald Trump will be sworn into office as the 47th president of the United States. It'll be interesting to see if Joe Biden and Jill are there, if Harris and the prototype for every American schlubby male is there, Emhoff. But the point is, the official transition of power will take place then. Every U.S. attorney in the United States must hand in their resignation. That is the way it always is. You serve at the leisure of the president. And Team Adams is back channeling and saying, please, 1,000 times, please. We'll do anything that you want, Trump. I mean, I'll even change my party registration to being a Republican, which is being talked about. I've talked to you about that. But I need you to get rid of Damian Williams. I need you to get him out. He's my number one adversary. If you can get rid of Damian Williams, maybe you slow down the process of the prosecution. And this is his Hail Mary pass. And Donald Trump, the president, is actually considering it. He can't eliminate the prosecution because the indictments have been put forward. There will be more superseding indictments that will follow. Next will be the Eastern District and the red Chinese money that line the coffers of Team Adams and him personally with Winnie Greco, a.k.a. Winnie Pooh, his booster bag lady. So all that is coming down the pipe. So you understand, Eric Adams is doing everything he can to curry favor with every Republican and every conservative, anybody who has ever known Trump in their lifetime. And he has even gone so far to say, hey, look, you know, I'm running for mayor again. I want what they call a Wilson Pakula. That means if you have 3 county chairmen in New York City, Republicans that give you a Wilson Pakula, you can then run in a Republican primary for mayor. Likewise, Conservative Party. Because he knows even if he holds on by his fingernails, he will not be able to win a Democratic primary. He will get beaten. And if he somehow miraculously wins a Democratic primary, he will be beaten in a general election. So let me just upset the Republican conservative Trump apple cart in this regard. Why can't we be friends? And the back channeling that is going on between Team Adams and Team Trump. over my dead body. I will definitely, without question, primary and Eric Adams if somehow he's given this Wilson Pakula. Understand that. So the best laid plans of Team Trump and Team Adams to save him from going to Otisville, the Sheldon Silver honorary cell there for corrupted politicians, that ain't going to happen over my dead body.
Check this out. It's the Rip and Read featuring Curtis Sliwa. Talk Radio 77 WABC. Talk Radio 77 WABC. Now to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa.
Curtis doesn't know about you, but he rips and reads.
This is the Rip and Read.
Yes, I procured this from the playlist of the great Lou Ruffino, who comes up with most of the great songs that you hear in the morning show with Sid and Friends. I certainly get a chance to pimp off the songs in all the different shows that I do here at WABC. So my salute to Lou Ruffino. I forgot this blast from the past. Warrior, that's by Scandal, right? Yeah, that's a great song, and it epitomizes a woman who thinks only of herself all points of the day, night, and every second in between. Tish James, State Attorney General of New York. And boy, she was the professed warrior against Donald Trump, the new president. Didn't even give it a day to breathe out. She jumped on board with Kathy Holcomb and declared themselves arm in arm, sisters in solidarity, who previously hated one another, did everything to basically detract from one another's ability at the state level. Tish James, as I had mentioned, constantly, when being asked by the governor's office to use attorneys from the attorney general's office to represent the governor on a New York State business, would always refuse. It was personal. It was professional. Tish James always thought that she should have been the governor of the state of New York after she whacked her Medici. Remember, she would never have become the state attorney general if Cuomo had not embraced her in a crowded field of opponents in a Democratic primary. That was his designated candidate. Wherever Cuomo went campaigning for governor, Tish James was side by side, attached to him like an appendage. And then the moment she got into power, she pulled out the long knives. And she just eviscerated Cuomo, so much so, he packed his bags, ran from the governor's mansion on Eagle Street, terrified that he would be impeached by his own party, which would prevent him from ever running for political office again, and that he would eventually be indicted by Tish James herself. So she understands how to wield power. And she was so upset on the night of Eric Adams' victory against me for mayor, when Kathy Holcomb was elevated onto the victory stage, and she was not permitted to stand side by side with Eric Adams, which was a clear signal to everybody in that room that Eric Adams wanted to be the number one African-American political figure in all of New York State, and he was not going to cede that to Tish James, and he certainly wasn't going to give her an opportunity to get on that stage. His anointed candidate for governor that night was Kathy Holcomb. And so this is personal for Tish James. She believes that she is entitled to every political job that she has vied for. She was hoping, along with Kathy Holcomb, that Harris would be swept into office. She believed those razor-thin polls that I told you were bogus on both the Democrat side and Republican side. All they were done, all they were able to successfully do is line the pockets of pollsters, prognosticators, analysts, and obviously those who consult political campaigns. On both sides, they made millions. But once Tish James saw that she had no chance of becoming Attorney General of the United States, she launched an all-out attack on Trump. She wanted to be first and foremost. She wanted to be at the top. Xena, the princess warrior, taking on everything Trump again.
We would be ready to respond to any attempt to roll back our rights. So here we are. We've studied their platforms. We've identified certain possibilities, fact patterns. We've created contingency plans. So no matter what the next administration throws at us, we're ready.
Xena, the warrior princess, was at it again. So she's admitted on our dime, our taxpayer dime, she has used the resources of the state attorney general office to research for weeks and months, as she said. In fact, could you play that again, Lou Rufino? It's in her own words that she has been involved in lawfare against President Donald Trump even before he was elected again.
We would be ready to respond to any attempt to roll back our rights. So here we are. We've studied their platforms. We've identified certain possibilities, fact patterns. We've created contingency plans. So no matter what the next administration throws at us, we're ready.
You're ready. A complete violation of her oath in office. She has dedicated all of our resources, we the taxpayers, to launching this battle again against Trump, to take every nickel, dime, and penny he has, to sue anyone named Trump or anyone affiliated with him, to try to crush him so that she elevates herself in the eyes of the liberal progressives and Democratic community that wants her revenge. Except they haven't circled the wagons yet. She's the first. And when you're the first, all the attention, all the money, all the recognition goes to you. That's why I have told you time and time again that I am working to elect as the next Attorney General of the state of New York, Michael Henry, who barely lost to Tish James when Zeldin was running for governor. He barely lost to her, Michael Henry. In fact, she would not debate Michael Henry. The reason? She knew right away Michael Henry was going to question her about turning the state attorney general office into a prosecutor's office of Trump and Trump alone. And she started the process all over again, started the process. Even Elise Stefanik, upstate New York, the darling of all Republicans nationwide, has endorsed Michael Henry, as I have, because we got to get ahead of the curve. We got to support him. We have to take her on now. She has declared war on the Republican Party, and she has declared war on Donald Trump before he's even sworn in. Listen to what else she said.
We're ready to respond to their attacks. We're ready to respond to any attempts to cut or eliminate any funding to the great state of New York, as the governor outlined. So despite what has happened on the national stage, we will continue to stand tall in the face of injustice, revenge, or retribution.
Revenge and retribution is yours. It's dripping from your lips. The guy has just had a day of savoring this hard-fought victory against all odds. And she's already at it. She's already at it. She's plotted. She's working towards this. She must be stopped. But then again, she wanted everyone to know that she is Xena, the warrior princess. She and she alone will lead this battle against everything Trump, everything Republican, everything conservative. She and she alone. She is seizing that ground, and the money will pour in from everyone who hates Trump. The money will start pouring in.
We will continue to protect and our most vulnerable and marginalized amongst us, because it is my sworn duty and responsibility to lead that fight, working with the governor of this great state, Kathy Hochul.
You never worked with her before. Time and time again, when Kathy Hochul had to go to court on government business from the governor's office, you have refused to do your fiduciary duty because you have disagreed with the governor. So you had basically told your newfound friend, your newfound warrior princess, tough nuggies, you're on your own. We are not defending you. What a fair weather friend. And then she closes with the statement that resonated in liberal, progressive, socialist, democratic circles all over America.
This is not the time to be fearful, New York, but faithful and steadfast, knowing that I, as the Attorney General, along with my entire team, we are guardians of the law, and we are prepared, my friends, to fight back. Thank you.
And we are prepared to fight you, Tish James, by electing this time Michael Henry as the Republican candidate to be Attorney General. Yeah, and we're geared up, Elise Stefanik, the first of many others who will endorse him, because you have decided to put the armor on. You have picked up the shield. You have decided to be the first out of the box to take down this President Donald Trump in his second turn in office. But she is banking on the fact that so many's out there, especially in New York City, which is the epicenter of contributions for liberals, progressives, democratic socialists, AOC, all out crazy, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, leader of the Socialists of America. She's banking on the fact that with so many schools and others basically allowing for what they call bereavement, as if somebody died, taking mental health days, having therapists on duty, and giving excusable absences, both on the work level and also in school. Tomorrow, I'm going to bring it up. Justin and Alec, take a note. Poly Prep, right? Cedar always raves about having gone to Poly Prep with Joe Tacopino, Arthur Idala, all those years. They basically took the chapel they have there, even though it's a secular school. You pay about $65,000 a year to send your privileged kids there. And they're turning it into a therapeutic place where your children can come in and sit and talk about how the world is coming to an end because Donald Trump is elected. And they feed the beast. I'm gonna confront Sid tomorrow. That's why you better be listening. I'm on with them every Monday through Friday at 7:20. And Poly Prep isn't alone. There are schools all over. Look at this. Look at the posts. These are coming from residents of New York City. Young people. Young people first. There's a crisis hotline everywhere for queer and trans people struggling with their mental health after Election Day. And it says suicide is not, I repeat, not a solution. Like, who the hell would commit suicide because Trump became president? What happened to all those freakazoids, trendoids, jet setters who said they would leave the country the first time? Remember in 2016? Not one of them left. And there are a whole slew of, I'm leaving. Okay, good. Leave. Get the hell out of here. Here's another post. I cannot fathom the feeling of the women who came forward about their sexual assault at the hands of Trump, seeing millions of people vote for their abuser. My heart absolutely goes out to them. Another one. If you voted for Trump, unfollow me. And get this, Justin and Alec. If you voted for Trump, unfollow me and then put that gun you love so much into your mouth and blow the very little brain matter you have out of it. Yeah, these are young people in New York City. By the way, I thought you were opposed to having guns in New York City. Here's another young person in bereavement here in New York City. Until the day I die, I will never understand why he was even still allowed to run for president. Is another young huckleberry. How sad it must be believing that scientists, scholars, historians, people who know the economy and journalists have devoted their entire lives to deceiving you, but a reality TV star with decades of fraud and exhaustively documented lying is your only beacon of truth and honesty, and you voted for this guy? Here's another one. Honestly, it's my fault for expecting better from the American public, but I really thought people were smarter than this. Clearly, they're idiots. Wow. And then finally, Justin Ellick, this is your generation, right? You're so proud of your generation. You really walked up to that voting booth and said, racism is not a deal breaker. Xenophobia is not a deal breaker. Misogyny and sexual assault are not deal breakers. Hate speech is not a deal breaker. Mishandling a pandemic is not a deal breaker. Inciting an insurrection is not a deal breaker. Felony convictions are not deal breakers. And then you voted for the orange man. This is your generation, Justin Ellick. And that's why a battle for the soul of New York City is underway. And I'm going to help take it back.
It's the Rip and Read. Featuring Curtis Sliwa. Talk Radio 77 WABC. Talk Radio 77 WABC. This is the Rip and Read. Featuring Curtis Sliwa. Now to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC. And Curtis Sliwa.
Yo, fellas, Boricua. Yo, fellas, Boricua. Yo, fellas, Boricua posse. Yo, fellas, Boricua. Yo, fellas, Boricua. Yo, fellas, Boricua posse. Yo, fellas, Boricua. Yo, fellas, Boricua. Yo, fellas, Boricua posse.
The turnaround for Donald Trump in this election cycle occurred in the heart of the South Bronx on May 23rd of 2024 in Crotona Park, in the heart of the South Bronx, El Barrio Little Boricua. But before we get to that, and we give praise where praise is due, as we see that Donald Trump got more Hispanic votes in New York City and especially in the Bronx, where it all started to turn around, and more black votes and more women's votes, and we can go right through the litany. Let's just remember the great Ronald Reagan back in 1980, showed up at Charlotte Street in the South Bronx. 3 years before that, President Jimmy Carter had arrived, and on a pile of rubble at Fox and Simpson Street, not far from the old Fort Apache precinct, he promised he would rebuild the Bronx. He never did. He never, ever did. It was another hollow promise from another politician visiting a desecrated area that looked like Dresden after the firebombing by the Allies in World War II, who came, had a cup of coffee, Bustelo, and then vacated the premise. But in 1980, Ronald Reagan was challenging the sitting president, Jimmy Carter, and he decided to come back to Charlotte Street, the very place that then President Jimmy Carter had promised that he would rebuild. And they said to Ronald Reagan, don't go there. Don't go there. They are going to jostle you, boo you, hassle you. And as he rolled up, it's just a block away from Crotona Park, as he rolled up, he got out of the car. Nancy looked at the crowd that had gathered. They were like vultures and buzzards ready to pick Ronald Reagan's bones clean. And Nancy looked at Ronnie and said, I'll wait for you in the car. And remember the confrontation, because Ronald Reagan did not surrender. He did not retreat on that day. And listen to the woman there that sounded like Cardi B. It was probably Cardi B's mother at the time.
It is 3 years.
But what are you going to do?
Wait a minute.
What are you going to do?
It is 3 years, and nothing has been done. Wait a minute.
Program by the South Bronx.
We know
The
that.
plan-
It's written everywhere.
Please, wait a minute.
Let them, man.
I'll get there.
But you don't need to speak. Just tell us, and we be happy. We go home.
All right. Now, that was almost 3 years ago, and today the president blames the local officials, the mayor of the city, and others, and says they called it off.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do for us?
All right.
No riots, no nothing. Just tell us.
Right now in Congress is some. I'm trying to tell you.
He had crawled into the belly of the beast, Ronald Reagan, and you heard that Cardi B sounded like, it was probably Cardi B's mother. Remember, recently in April and May, week after week, Donald Trump the Republican nominee for the presidency had to go into Manhattan Criminal Court of Alvin Bragg and get pounded every day. In the meantime, the Reverend Ruben Diaz was organizing a rally that people said would never work, getting blacks and Hispanics in the South Bronx in Crotona Park to meet for a MAGA rally. They said it wouldn't work. And then the media, naturally, in a knee-jerk reaction, said, well, Reverend Diaz Sr., he's a pisher. He's a nobody. He's a person of no consequence. We got to go to the princess of the South Bronx, AOC, all out crazy, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Remember what she said about the expected rally?
New York City's blue. Brooklyn is blue, Queens is blue, the Bronx is blue, and he's got nowhere to go. And so he's decided to come to the South Bronx. He's broke. He needs to pay these legal funds and, busing people in order to get those donations so that he can funnel them to his legal fees is kind of his business right now.
And then, unlike Jenny on the block, Jennifer Lopez, who grew up in Castle Hill, who went to Preston High School, still an all-girls, prestigious Catholic school in the Neck. You could say J-Lo, who made the mistake of backing Harris. The moment she walked off that stage, if you remember Justin Ellick, the FBI was waiting for her in Vegas, saying, we've been trying to ask you questions about your old boyfriend, P. Diddy, and the 2 years you were with him, and if you remember attending any of his freakouts or whatever the hell that stuff was. Oh, she was appalled. But here it is, AOC, right? No cred in the Bronx. Did not grow up in the Bronx. Certainly avoided the South Bronx and grew up in Westchester when she was called Sandra Ocasio. And she urged her followers to show up. She urged the unions, 1199, and all the others to show up and protest Trump. The Reverend Ruben Diaz Sr. and his followers came together, Republicans, Democrats, religious, secular, and they organized the biggest MAGA rally that you could have ever anticipated. 30,000 strong, mostly black and Hispanic, MAGA-wearing supporters, many of them from the South Bronx. Remember his words?
Mr. President, I want to join you in having the Bronx great again. Please accept this Democrat, this black Puerto Rican with a kinky hair and a broken English. Please accept my endorsement for you as a president. Thank you very much.
30,000 people showed up. Most folks didn't even think 3,000 would show up in Crotona Park. And AOC, all out crazy, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, never spent time in the Bronx, lived in Westchester, went to a prestigious high school. Sandra Ocasio was her name there. She urged her followers show up. She urged unions to show up to counter-protest Trump. 400 showed up. 30,000, mostly black and Hispanic, MAGA supporting Republicans showed up. A lot of them from the South Bronx. That was the turning point after weeks of watching Trump every day in Manhattan Criminal Court get pounded. Robert De Niro outside having a press conference, disparaging him, calling him out like a street thug. Every day was another parade of detractors in the heart of blue downtown Manhattan, pounding Trump. And then there were a lifeline. It came from the South Bronx. His appearance at Crotona Park, I marked that day as the turnaround, May 23rd of 2024, when people realized that Donald Trump would become the next president of the United States.